Hey, it's the Ray Rican, and today I'm going to talk about this video. Excuse my voice. I'm just dealing with this, whatever the hell it is, allergies, cold. I don't know, but my voice is just all over the place. So, excuse me while I make this video. Um, I hope you guys can hear me just fine. I'm trying to put my mouth like, excuse me. I'm going to try to put my mouth as close to the mic as possible. Here we go, just so you guys can hear me better. And here we go. Like I said, just excuse me. You can see from the title of my video what I'm going to talk about. I want to share this story that I came across here on. It's here from the AP News, and I'm gonna go through the story. I think I might read the majority of the article just so you could. I just want you to see what I'm talking about when I talk about the whole I'm talking about race over substance. So while I'm reading this article, I want you to critically hear this and see what they're talking about in the article. So it goes here. In 2008, this overwhelmingly white state was Barack Obama's unlikely launching pad to become the nation's first black president. 14 years later, Iowans aren't showing a similar embrace of the woman running to become its first black governor. Democrat Deidre DeJar is finding Iowa a much changed place, trending staunchly conservative, endorsing many aspects of Trumpism, when an electorate that is so far displaying little interest in her history making candidacy. Educated young adults who were once reliable Democrat voters have fled rural Iowa seeking opportunities elsewhere. The strength of organized labor has eroded. Obama's general election victories in 2008 and 2012 seem like distant memories. Let's start with these first three paragraphs. Have they mentioned the only thing you can see of uh, there's no policy, there's no substance. All they talk about is that she's black, she's a woman, and that Iowa is trending toward conservatism and mocking it by calling it Trumpism. And this is how they're getting people. I had a conversation, was having conversation about politics at my home this weekend. And the thing that they ran to was that, Trump was racist. And I'm like, where? When before he ran for president, when was he considered racist? And the closest that I could get was the guy said, well, he was against the mosque being built by Ground Zero after 9/11. I'm like, there was a lot of people who was against building that mosque by the World Trade Center after 9/11. Me being one of them. I just thought that was a slap in the face after it was too soon after the events of 9/11 for that to be pushed onto there. But anyway, I want to keep going with the article because I don't want to. I want you to see what I'm talking about. The changes are part of a broader transformation that has spread through the northern plains over the past 2 decades, making it increasingly difficult for Democrats to compete in the region, even as they make inroads in other places like Deep South and Sunbelt. Times are so different from Obama's 2008 campaign, said Dave Leash, a veteran Democratic organizer from Iowa City after the DeJar event in the liberal enclave. It's an entirely different State. DeJar, a 36-year-old Des Moines businesswoman, cemented her status as a rising political star in 2018 when she became the first black candidate to win a statewide primary in Iowa. She lost the general election for Secretary of State, but she won the national attention and invitations from the Democratic presidential hopefuls to serve as a state advisor. She's struggling to translate that lower wattage fame into support from voters. Only 31% of likely Iowa voters said they even know about DeJure. Running unopposed in June 7th primary to form an opinion, according to the Des Moines Register Iowa poll conducted in late February and early March. Meanwhile, she posted an anemic $8,500 fundraising in balance in January, raising less than $300,000 since announcing her candidacy in August. It polled next to Republican incumbent Governor Kim Reynolds' 4.8 million balance and 3.8 million in contributions. Story County Democrat Barb Wheeler attributed part of the judge's struggle to racism, both inside the party and among the state's voters. I think it's part that she's black and people don't think she'll do very well. The people in our party, state party, the people with money, Wheelock, a 70-year-old retired physical therapist, said while attending a DeJar stop in Story County last month. DeJar told the Associated Press that she suspected her race may be in some minds as she seeks supporters. Of course, no one has said that to me outright, but it's a question of whether or not a black woman could win. That is definitely a question. DeJar tried to put any such doubts aside as she bounded on stage at an event in Nevada, a small farm town in central Iowa. With an upbeat style and a trace of her native Mississippi accent, the jar reminded the audience that Iowans boasted a groundbreaking legacy, including an Iowa Supreme Court decision that made Iowa the first state to desegregate public schools after the Civil War. In a not, let me see. We made conscious decisions. Don't matter with skin color. Okay. It was a nod to an Iowa progressive streak that carried well into the 21st century. In 2009, the Iowa High Court ruled gay marriage legal, making the state the third to allow it, after similar rulings in Massachusetts, Connecticut, but 5 years before the Supreme Court. A year before, Iowa voters had not only backed Obama by a healthy margin in the general election, they overwhelmingly sent liberal Democrat Tom Harkin to the U.S. Senate for a fifth term. Iowa's ushered in the new millennia with Tom Vilsack, a Democrat and former mayor from. Anyways, yeah, I'm gonna keep going here and here. It goes here. After decades of divided, it was in a striking illustration. Obama carried the state in November 2008 by winning 52 of its 99 counties. Joe Biden, who on Tuesday will make his first trip to Iowa as president, lost the state in 2020, winning over only 6 counties. After decades of divided state government, Republicans have controlled the legislature and the governorship for 6 consecutive years, cutting taxes and reining in voting and abortion rights. Today, 5 of Iowa's state 6 members of Congress are Republican. Anyways, I'll link to the article so you guys could read it for yourself. I just want you to see we're already um halfway into the article, okay? And all they talk about is race. The only policies they talk about is in critique to Republicans' policies. So if you look at the article, um, there's no substance, and this is what goes on. This is what passes as this is what passes for journalism. This is what passes. This is how Democrats push their agenda on us is make make it about the bad things Republicans do. Ignore the bad things we do, but uh, just focus on what the bad things Republicans do. Let's focus on race, okay? Even though Iowa overwhelmingly voted for Obama twice, okay, now they won't vote for a black woman because of racism. Meanwhile, Biden just lost the state, you know, 2 years ago. And so maybe it's the bad policies that Democrats haven't are proposing. That's, maybe has nothing to do with the race, but that's how they get, and this is what I was trying to bring across to my friends that came over, because obviously, look, I'm Latino, and most of my Latino friends are people who think that the Democrat Party is for them. It's just a default, but we don't, a lot of it's emotional. They'll get us on our emotions, where we think that um, we don't think, we feel. And the problem with that is that they get us on that. So when we see this and we go, oh, look, you know, they're not going to vote for her because she's a black female. Well, that's what they did with Kenjati Brown in the Supreme Court. If you questioning her about what is a woman, because we have all these trans and these trans rights activists, these people pushing gender ideology, gender theory, into into schools and all that stuff. Asking this to a Supreme Court, someone who's going to be in the Supreme Court, was a legitimate question, and in my opinion, she failed, because she couldn't just say a woman is, you know, uh, a woman's an adult female. Let's say, uh, you didn't have to say she's someone who could have babies, has sexual characteristics, secondary sexual characteristics, um, and all that stuff. That you didn't have to get into all those complications. Didn't have to say a menstruating person, a birthing person, as the nonsense as these people try to say that men can menstruate. Um, you know, an old clip uh, was spreading around the internet this weekend, where Dennis Prager was on Bill Maher, and he was talking about how the crazy left are saying men can menstruate, and this was just 4 years ago, and they were laughing on him on Bill Maher. Can you imagine now? But this is how they'll use race to push their agenda. So it's like you have Conjetti Brown. Now she's on the Supreme Court. Now, if you get like trans activists, um, who's gonna push this gender ideology on schools, they have a supporter now, and we know it. And all because she's the first black female. Woohoo! I would have. I'm Puerto Rican, and I would have preferred that um, Sonia Maito, Sonia Sotomayor. I would have preferred for her not to be on the Supreme Court, and I'm Puerto Rican. Okay. And not because not because I'm against a Puerto Rican woman being on there, but I'm against her ideology. And the stupidity she spouted on a case where she talked about the death rate of kids of COVID and all this stuff. I'm like, no, come on, you're embarrassing Puerto Ricans. That's what you're doing. Um, but that's what they do. They use the race of people. They use the ethnicity to hide over the substance, because they want to hide the bad policies, the bad issues that these candidates support. So just because she's a black female doesn't mean that Iowans are going to support uh, what her agenda entails. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know what her policies are. I just read the article and I'm like, look, there's no substance here. They didn't mention, oh well, these are her what she supports in her issues. How are you going to get you're writing this article to get people to support for her, and all you're saying is racism, racism. It's because she's a black female. Well, why don't you say what are her policy issues? So like that Iowans reading the article will see what she stands for. But saying because she's a black female, that's why people are voting for her, that's not going to win you anything. It's just disgusting race baiting um nonsense that people just are getting sick and tired of. And this is why I'm hoping for, a landslide victory in 2022 and 2024, so the Democrats could start supporting this crazy bullshit. There's people leaving the party because of this nonsense. We don't want to be treated like children and trying to get us to vote based on our emotions, based on, you know, our physical characteristics, our physical characteristics, our ethnicities. We don't want that. We want you guys to have substance. We want you to tell us what you guys are for. We don't want, you're for socialism, fine, but be prepared when you get, Cubans and Venezuelans, uh, and other people from Latin America that escape that, and their families escape that, and they come here and they vote against it. Okay, when thinking that all Latinos are for open borders and pro illegal immigration, that's not a winning issue. But you guys keep pushing it because there is a percentage there. It's not all Latinos, but there's a percentage, not just Latinos, but the elites in the Democratic Party that are definitely for and are advocates of open borders. But that's what passes. Like I said, that's why I said race, as I entitled the video, "Race Over Substance," because they don't want to talk about policy issues. All they want to talk is about race. And the problem with it is not the danger, it's what's going on. We're getting a reversal of the race relations improvements we've made in the past 60 years. Obama helped reverse that. And when he saw he was going to lose the election in 2012 to Mitt Romney, that's when he started pushing his the identity politics. He went from hope and change in 2008 to, oh, people don't support me because I'm black. But what happened to all the people who supported you because you were black in 2008? And a bunch of these people still supported you in 2012. Bad policy is bad policy. It doesn't matter what your skin color is. And if you don't believe me, look what happens when blacks and Latinos get off leave the Democrat plantation. You had Larry Elder when he was running uh to recall Gavin Newsom. The LA Times called him the black face of white supremacy. They said the same thing about Candace Owens. So anytime you disagree with the Democrats, they will name call you. They will call you every dirty name in the book because for as much as these people say they're not racist, they're the most racist people because the fact that that's all they see. That's what they view their lens is in the lens of race, and that's the problem. You know, just because you're black, just because you're white, doesn't mean that you have to be stuck on one issue. You know, just because you're black doesn't mean that you have to be against gun control. Just because you're white doesn't mean you have to be for abortion. Your ethnicity, your race doesn't mean you have to be a certain political party, a political ideology. Same thing LGBTQ, and I'll leave it there. Plus, like they say. But, doesn't mean that you have to be a Democrat. Doesn't mean you have to be a progressive. There's people in the LGBT community that are against, this whole thing of sexualization, teaching gender ideology to children. There's trans people who are against transitioning children. There's people who say, wait till they're older so they could really understand the decision. But this is, race, ideology, race and um, sexual preference now race, or sexual orientation, which whichever way you want, whichever term you want to use, ethnicity, like I said, sexual orientation, whichever, however you look at it, just because you're in that category doesn't mean you have to be on one side of the political aisle. Okay. But that's what they do. That's how they do it. That's how they is divide and conquer. And that's why, Dems use race over substance. And we'll leave it there. I'm the Right Rican. I hope you enjoy my video. If you do, please like and subscribe. I'm on YouTube and Rumble. And you could also interact with me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram. Um, you name it, I have it, except Truth. So I've given up on Truth, I'll be honest. So, anyway, with that being said, have a good one, everyone.